If there's one thing I feel qualified to talk to you about, it's imposter syndrome and perfectionism. I taught medical school, was valedictorian, won multiple dance and academic scholarships, and my secret to success was towing the fine line between holding yourself to a standard of excellence without falling into the trap of perfectionism. Hi, I'm CC. I'm a doctor who everyone asks, how do you do so much? Yet I've spent decades dealing with imposter syndrome in the hospital and everyday life. But when I let go of these three perfectionism traps, that's when my productivity and success exploded. And I really want to share those three things with you all today.
Hi, I'm Oliver. I'm the fiance of that perfect girl, Cece, right here. So, the first thing that we want to talk about, and one thing that we discuss often, is what does failure mean to you? And the way that we like to think about it, especially when we come home from a really big day of work, we get a lot of criticism from our consultants, other colleagues, even the patients that we see. And the way that I like to see failure is that failure is just information.
And so, if you just see failure as information, then why wouldn't you want more of it? Because actually, all you want to do is learn, right? If you're not out there to try and improve your ego or what other people think about you, then actually there's nothing wrong with failure. Actually, it's probably the most productive thing that you can do is to fail. Like, what's the point in succeeding? You're just reaffirming things that you already know and that you're good at. You're
Mm.
actually not making any improvements at all. A lot of people struggle with failure because it represents something to them. Usually it's that they're not good enough, that people don't like them, that they won't be loved because they're not successful. But actually, those are often traumatic thoughts that have been fed in by issues that people have had in their childhood and past. And people catastrophize failures from answering a question wrong to being like, everyone in the class thinks I'm dumb, without realizing that no one really cares about you at all and no one's really thinking about you. And people often feel better when you get things wrong because everyone's actually just scared for themselves. And they're really grateful when people are brave enough to put themselves out there, ask the questions, fail, and move on. And setting that example for people makes such a better culture as well. And that's the sort of environment that I want to be part of. The second point is about lowering the bar. So, one of the biggest problems with perfectionism is that you procrastinate because it's just so overwhelming to try and get started because you want to get a perfect result. And if that's the only option, then of course you're not going to want to do anything. But if the goal is just to learn, if the goal is just to experience, if the goal is just to start, then you're so much more likely to say yes to opportunities that could potentially change your life. I can think of so many things where I have a lot on my plate, maybe feeling a bit stressed about it, but there are people around me who, have asked me like, "Oh, do you want to give a speech at graduation?" Now, I have an exam coming up, one of the biggest in my career, the last one actually, before I can become a proper physician. And there is a speech that I got invited to give for the University of Otago, which is about a month beforehand. If I let my perfectionism self get in the way, I would probably say no. But actually, I can see how much more important it is that I just show up, give it a go, and give my authentic best self because that's all anyone's asking for. No one's asking for a perfect result. And also it doesn't even exist. So something that I've learned a lot from Oliver is that my best work doesn't always come from grinding and pushing hard. It actually comes from joy and passion and just doing what feels right at the time. And that's a really important lesson that I think a lot of perfectionists miss out on is that sometimes the best work that you do is just in the whim of the moment. Just let it go and submit it.
And the third point that I've definitely learned when I was in my first year as a trainee in maxillofacial surgery, we were all spending hours after our clock time, which was 5 p.m., and would be spending hours till 8 p.m. doing everything, making sure that everything was sorted 100% to the T for the next day. And I told one of my bosses, hey, we're spending so long here. Like, what was it like when you were coming up? And he said, we all went home at around 4 o'clock. I don't know what you're doing. I told him all the things that we were doing, and he said to me one really groundbreaking thing that has changed the way that I practice. And he said, it's really important to figure out what can actually wait till tomorrow. We all have different priorities, and there's definitely things that we need to do that are urgent and need to be done within the next few hours for our patients to make sure that their well being is looked after. But the other things can wait. It's really important to figure those out because you need that breathing space for your mental health. And mental health is huge, and especially for people that are perfectionists. I've seen lots of people work and grind themselves down to the bone for this healthcare system because they don't understand what can actually wait till tomorrow. And once you figure that out, you can have a lot more time for yourself, your family, and also your health.
And there's this interesting triangle, right, between like perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and burnout. And I really do think that understanding your relationship with failure, lowering the bar, and understanding prioritization, those are all things that will bring you longevity in your career and in your success. And it will also bring you a lot of joy in doing things without being scared that you aren't perfect. I hope those are helpful for anyone who does struggle with imposter syndrome or perfectionism. If you're interested in knowing our system to becoming exceptional and how we study, we have made this 30-day study challenge, which, if you're interested, you can comment down below or check the description. It's essentially our personal blueprint distilled from 30 years of learning into 30 days so that people have a practical idea of what they can do to create a system that actually works to get the best grades of their life.
Videos up here, and we'll see you next time.